Pizza delivery drivers of Reddit, what was the most fucked up place you've ever stopped at? I was delivering chicken, KFC, not pizza, but my worst stop was pathetic. Really? I knock on the door. I hear a kid yell, "I got it." He opens the door and runs up the stairs yelling to his friends, "The chicken asshole's here. The chicken asshole's here!" Exclamation mark. After which a crowd of about 8 preteens at the top of the stairs start throwing change down the stairs at me to pay for the delivery. I asked if they could hand me the money. They laugh and just throw the quarters, dimes, etc. harder. So I picked up the bag of food, winged it up the stairs at him, it hit the wall, and I split. Told the boss what happened, and if they call to complain I won't listen or apologize. I'll just quit if he brings it up. I found out later he did get a call and told him to get stuffed. Good boss. It was outside of town on a dirt road with tall trees. Every house was basically just plywood shacks. There was broken down cars and trash everywhere. The entire neighborhood just reeked of a B-rated horror film. I find the right house and walk up to the door, but it was just a blanket, so I had to yell, "Pizza." They come to the door and grumbled. It was a haggard-looking man wearing boxes and a dirty white tank. Something felt wrong as he handed me a bill that looked washed. I held the $100, with old Ben Franklin's face on it, up to the light and could clearly see Abe Lincoln in the paper. They had ordered around $50 worth of pizza and wanted change. He tried convincing me that he went to the bank and they gave him that bill. I asked him why then wrong face was on there, and he said that's how they do it. I said hell no and drove away as fast as I could. We stopped taking orders that don't have street roads. I delivered in a couple different college towns in Oregon. There are a lot of meth and poverty here, not unlike a lot of rural areas in America these days. Granted, this was decades ago, but there were a surprising amount, actually. Not like 50, but there were a few in each town. There was always that pathway leading in never went in, and there was almost always an animal or two as well, which always bummed me out. The smell isn't always what you'd expect, more like an old thrift store book X1000 mixed with ass and animal excrement, urine. That kind of smell, it takes years of direct exposure to get used to. I'd prefer living next to a paper mill again over that. One that really blew my mind was an upscale hoarder. Everything was new and still in packages, just piled from floor to ceiling. Kids' clothes, musical instruments, tools, you name it. I've honestly seen some pretty bad houses as a building envelope inspector. Not really hoards, but just horribly disgusting and filthy environments. I don't mean to judge, but I just don't understand how folks can live that way. I once delivered to a guy living under his porch, if that counts. I drove up to the house. It's pitch black. No lights on. I look at the ticket and it says, "Use back door." I go up the steps and no lights on. Nothing. Then I hear a voice from below me say, "Hey, down here." I look under the porch and there's a small door leading into what looked like a makeshift apartment. I had to actually crouch to get to it. Gave the guy the pizza and bounced the fuck out of there. Drove for a bit when things were rough. Day driving on weekdays meant there were only 2 of us, and we got mostly the business park lunches and the SAHM pool parties, and the latchkey kids after school snacks. There was some interesting stuff. We ran into brothels, ran out of apartments, drug dens out of high-end hotels. But for the most part it was seniors answering the door in boxes or tossing flyers on doors or dealing with snotty brats. There was this one house, though, that made my heart stop every time it came up, which was thankfully rare. Call it instinct or energy or whatever, I hated that house. And because there was only 2 of us, and I was 20 years younger than the other guy, it was usually me. It was the only house on a single-lane road. To give you an idea of the distance here, the major road, this little road was off of Houston New McMansion development within 1 mile, and a sleepy little 1950s-style cookie-cutter suburbia development a mile in the other direction. It'd be real easy to mistake this road for an access road, especially with how heavily overgrown that area had become. Once you got on this little road, the first 20 feet or so seemed absolutely normal. It's after you turned the bend and the road turned to gravel that things went batshit. We're talking the road lined with construction worker and Smokey the Bear cutouts wrapped in barbed wire and holding model rifles. Naked store mannequins covered in paintball splatter with BB guns tied to their hands and pointed at the road. Signs every 5 or 10 feet, no trespassing, private property, CCTV recording in progress. You are being watched. No shit, Sherlock, you aren't hiding the cameras. This continued for the next mile, while I wondered if I should be calling my fiancé and telling him I loved him, grateful that it was bright and sunny out. So I get to the gate and call the customer, which was the most normal part of this. Tell him I'm outside, only be told to not approach the house under any circumstances and do not leave the vicinity of my car. Okay, dude. You know what? I'm intimidated. I'm a 24-year-old woman a mile into the woods at some psycho's house fort with crap reception on my phone just trying to deliver a pizza. So, I get out of my car, take out the pizza bag, and lean against the side of my car and hope that I'm not making the nightly news. Out walks a guy who, I shit you not, is dressed like he walked off a MIB film set, takes his pizza and wings, tips me $5, and instructs me how to turn my car around. Would rather take the strippers 100 times over that house. So while I was in undergrad, I worked as a pizza delivery driver. I had a delivery to a dodgy part of town with a delicious pie. When I got within a couple miles of the residence, a local sheriff's deputy got in front of me. We made all the same turns. Then as we got closer, another got in front of him and one behind me. I start freaking out a bit as I'd been smoking some weed, but carry on. Finally, we all get to the same residence, which is totally surrounded by police in riot gear, guns drawn, all that shit. I get out with my pizza and discover the house I'm supposed to deliver to is the one with SWAT out in front. One of the officers waves me off and says, he's not gonna need that today, and they proceed to breach the door, to which I return to the car with a free pizza and get the hell out of there. They were added to our do not deliver list, but I don't think we ever heard from them again. First time to a huge mansion that was renowned for big tips, where you had to go around the back to a gate leading to the pool patio. Guy who answered the gate doorbell had been disfigured in some horrible accident. He had me wait while he got his wallet, so I got a good dose of the backyard where a raging party was going on. Coke being snorted, craziness in the pool, booze bottles everywhere, and it was like midday on a Wednesday. Guy finally comes back, addresses me by name, no name tag, and says, "You don't remember me, do you?" Knowing that I'd remember those injuries, I realized he must know me from before he got hurt, and I stammered out a weak, "No, I don't." His response blew me away. He recalled being in first grade with me at a local Catholic school I attended for 1 year. Then, he went on to detail everything about class that year, the people, teachers, activities, and that his accident had happened during the following summer. He'd gone through a windshield in a head-on with a semi. I delivered there a few more times and hung out chatting with him as long as I could. It slowly became clear that the party crowd was just using him for his money. That was fucked up enough, but what I also eventually realized was that he was stuck in that last normal year he'd lived, and 20 years later, had moved back IRC. He'd moved away because his parents died or were severely injured in the accident, as soon as he was old enough to access the accident settlement. And the money was going up that crowd's nose pretty fast. I had no idea how to help him or even if he wanted help, and eventually started letting other drivers take that run. Never saw him again, even though it's a small town. Eventually he stopped ordering pizza and then I left for a job elsewhere, but would pass by his house when visiting while my parents still lived there. Fewer and fewer cars were parked out front every time I went by, and the house slowly became overgrown with ivy. Fucked up.